it's Don the Auction Professor here. I thought I would do a what's sold video. I haven't had a ton of time this week. We're starting to get ready for Halloween, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of large-scale illustrations for my Halloween postcards this year. But I thought I'd show you just a quick few items here that we sold, so you can kind of get an idea where we're heading still.
Here's our first item. This one sold along with, I think we sold like 42 of these all at the same time, almost $900 worth. This one here is Lionel Barrymore, and I believe it's his future wife, Drew. If the name sounds familiar, this is actually Drew Barrymore, the current movie actress. I think she's on some kind of diet show where she's a zombie. But this is actually Drew Barrymore's great-great-grandfather, and I believe her great-great-grandmother. I could be wrong on the exact relationship, but she is related to this person as, you know, a direct descendant. Barrymores have been around for ages, since like 1880s. And this is just one of those items. I put these up for auction. Some of the tobacco cards can go for hundreds of dollars. What I usually do is whenever it doesn't sell, I'll go ahead and just relist and dump it into a buy it now option. But again, I sold like 900 almost. I think it was like 885 or something in that range in one day on these cards. I'll show you a few more just so you can kind of get an idea. I had a couple questions on showing more details and items that I sell and what's worth something. So I'm going to do more on this kind of item. I've got a few pieces of clothing. I kind of limited it, I think, this time again, and I didn't show as many of the 78 since I have shown those before. Paper is like probably the best area we sell in, and that's like almost 60% of our sales are just in paper. But you can kind of see it's just a common tobacco card. These would come in a pack of cigarettes or a pack of chew or something like that back in the day in the 1880s, 90s. Here's another trade card. Again, condition means a lot in this area. This one's not in bad condition considering how old it is. It's anthropomorphic, which means an object that's made to emulate a person in some way, shape, or form. She's a plant lady, a thistle thrive, something like that. I'm not really sure what kind of plant you would call it, but it looks like a thistle to me. That was interesting. We did sell it for $34.50. It's an advertising piece for shoes. Shoes aren't really big sellers, but the anthropomorphic chewing tobacco, smoking tobacco dude was what made it worthwhile. He's got cigars for arms. It was pretty interesting. I took 30, as I said, for that one. And the gentleman bought 2 cards. He invested $50 with me. This one I took 20 on. It's an interesting one. Again, I sell a lot of the labels. It's something you're going to have to hunt for and do a lot of auctions and estate sales to get to know the right person to be able to come across these very often. I've got people who come and bring stuff to me these days, and they have people who bring stuff to them. So once you get a little chain of people coming around that can bring you stuff, then that's when you're going to make and be able to purchase things like this a little better. It even had damage. The rip was listed in details, but it's still sold for 20. It's a scarcer item, something you just don't come across that much. Now defunct as well, too. Furness, I don't believe, is in existence. I don't think they have been for like 30 or 40 years, maybe, from what I understand. Again, I talk about photos. I sell photos constantly, at least 1 or 2 a day, probably, somewhere down the line. Rob Reiner, I believe, is why this one sold, which is the gentleman on the left-hand side from Archie Bunker's place. Actually, this did go for $34.50. Let's see here. Next one. This one did sell for $24.50. I was kind of surprised. I usually, as I said, throw probably twice almost on some items what I think it'll go for. It's a small item. Person loved it, left good feedback. It's a hand-painted piece, handmade. We've had other pieces by the artist. They're from the South. They do a lot of nautical. We have a salt and pepper shaker set by them, too, and things like that. But it was a good one, $24.50, plus they paid shipping. Here's a little book. Condition wasn't that good in it, unfortunately. But it's still, I took 40 on this. It's an interesting piece. I actually had 3 of these. It's a recovered piece from somewhere. Not in great condition, as I said, but it did sell. You can see the condition. Let's see here. And again, I said I took 40 on that one. This one did sell overnight. I was surprised. It was more than I expected to get out of it. But again, that's what I say. Just throw a price out there and take what you can get out of it. That's the best bet on any of these kind of items. You can look at comps, but it just really depends on who's on any specific day of the week. on what it's going to sell for. Comps on this, I've seen them as cheap as $4, averages maybe 20, 24, maybe not even that high if I remember right. So this is probably one of the highest ones I've seen sell for that. Let's see here. Next one. Some more of these cards just so you can kind of get an idea. Mostly they're actresses. This one is the common one, Thomas H. Hall. Now, if you have some other names, like I think Pix was one of the other ones I had, Pix, some of the other brands that look the same on the front, that still says Between the Acts, cigarettes, they're almost identical. Even on the back are almost identical, but the name and the manufacturer is different. I've sold some of those for $200, $300, $400 a piece for the same cards from this same series, just by a different manufacturer. So on these, I tend to always list these in auction. It's one of the few items I ever list in auction, and not all of them. The tobacco cards I go straight to listing them as a buy it now, make an offer, listing a bin. But you can see they do sell. I've got, I don't know, maybe I bought like 70 or 80 of these at a estate sale. I think I got maybe 40 into them all. And return, we received back almost 900, like 880, as I said, 885, somewhere in that range. But this one went for 23, 23.50. Again, these are the common ones, so you can run across some of the other ones. Same thing, another one of the common hauls. 14.16. Okay, now these I actually showed in another haul video. These were John Winch. I call them mechanical since they open up, and that usually fits the description for any of these. It's got an attached booklet on the face of it. I took $12.50 on each of them. Again, I just threw a price up there. I've got $2. I think maybe I spent $1 a piece on them or something like that. But I sold both of them, so I took $24.50 on the pair, and I spent $2 on them. I could have held on to them for a little longer, but at this point, I've got a ton of merchandise. $12.50 is very good. That's what they average for some of these non-fanciful, non-character related. This is more just a religious one, and I never expected to get $37.50 for either one of them. Sometimes you get lucky and it sells for that, but I would have been happy with that price range. And if he hadn't only put the offer on one, I would have probably countered back at like $19.99 on just one. But since he was buying two, I'm fine with $24.50. It's a $20-some-odd profit off of those two items. And I've already sold a bunch of the other postcards from there as well, too. So I've made a ton of money on that haul that I showed you. And again, I think every haul that I've showed, I've already made a good profit on, and we still have a ton of items to sell from those lots. Most of it's not even up, as I said, since we do a 90-day plan. Here's the other one. Again, $12.50, 24. It was $25 for the pair is what I got out of them. And again, $2, I think, investment. Maybe a little less than that. I'll have to go back and look, but somewhere in that range. Trader Vic's items I always buy. It's a bolo for me. A lot of people don't look for it, but every Trader Vic's item I've ever had, whether it's a statue, a mug, anything like that line, as long as it's not a U.S.-based one, they sell very quickly and very high. You can see this one here. But we've sold, I don't know, 3 or 4 Trader Vic's ties. I've sold dozens of mugs. I've sold lots of tiki items, advertising items, even postcards from there sell very well too. So just something to look for. I'd call it a bolo. Trader Vic items. I've been to a Trader Vic's actually too, so it's not a bad store. There's one in Florida. There was at one time back in the 90s. Let's see, here's a comic book. This came out of one of the lots. The person actually forgot the sticker, and it made its way up, unfortunately. But it's sold. It's gone. Person was happy, so I can't complain. This one here, this is actually one that, come to find out that they make reproductions of this. You can buy a whole box set of these nowadays for like $5-10. But this is an original of this design. I took $37.50 on it. It's a cute one. Sold it real quick. Person was happy with it. Next item here. This one I took $15 on. It's just a little hymnal, nothing fancy. I probably paid $1 or less for it. It could be one of those 4 for $1 books even. But it's sold. Happy with the $15 return. Trade card, again, it had some damage as you can see, but the subject matter was very good. $27.50 it sold for. It was a best offer. This one went to that same person. He spent $30 on this one, so out of the 2 pieces that he bought, it was $57 and some change. But that was still pretty good, almost 60 bucks from one person, and they're just little paper items. This was pretty cute. It would have come in a huge sheet where you could have just ripped off and used the ones you wanted. It's just a little strip. I sell individual ones like this as well too. It's never been used. I think I did have a little strip of these maybe, and maybe we took them apart, and because they were repeating images, and just sold them individually like this. But again, 30 bucks. They're really small. You can see that's a standard inch ruler. They're 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches across and like 3 inches tall. So good paper item. Another good paper item. I sold it for $95. It sold overnight. I was pretty happy. And I've got 2 of these too. So you can see it's a small one. It's a beer label. I wouldn't say it's a beer label. This is more like a luggage label or something along that line, given out by Acme Beer during the 1939 World's Fair. So it was pretty interesting. It's a foil. It's never been used. A few little damaged spots here and there, but even on the front, there's, I think, a little divot up here in the corner or something. Yeah, just a little light one, like right over there in the corner. But that's that one, 95 bucks. I sell quite a bit of this. This is what it's sold for. You can see it's a Kenneth Cole. It was very interesting. Looked like real stones. The whole set it was, too. So it's a nice looking piece. That photo was a little washed out, but there's a better image. You can see the earrings and the necklace. It's all marked. Nice piece. Sold very well. We sold more jewelry too, but I showed a lot last week, so I thought I'd kind of go and show you a little different items. Some of the comic books from a comic book haul that I showed. This one went for $75. I paid somebody to list it. Ian, one of our employees, I'll probably have him in a video soon too. But Ian listed this, and it literally sold like 10 minutes after he got off his shift. So I think he worked 3 hours after school that day, and literally 10 minutes later, I got all my money back out of his shift and made a profit. So, that's a good thing. This one I took 40 for. It's Automobile Baby. It's a bopper. If you're not sure, it's like a rockabilly. Boppers are more country sounding than a rockabilly. It's all from the same time frame, the same stylish and era. It was a decent one. Had it for a little while, but again, I don't mind spending 60 cents to run this for a year and to make $40 profit on a $1 investment. So, I mean, if you can spend $1 and, just have something sitting there and get $40 back, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. I don't care about the 60 cents to list it for a year. This wasn't up for a year, I don't believe, though. I believe it was up for like 7 or 8 months, so, 40 cents worth of listing fees. But even if it sat for a year or two, you're still only talking $1.20 for 2 years. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Keep them running. I had a bunch of these, sold all of them in the like $30 range. I think this one went for $27.50 plus shipping, so I got basically $30 back after all was said and done. I had a couple complete uniforms that I sold a little while ago. This was up for a little while. It's an authentic piece. I'll pick up these kind of items all the time too. Any sports related, musical related, clothing items, jackets, coats, amusement parks, anything like that. I picked up a bunch of these for 50 cents, I think, at a garage sale. It's Christian Dior. It was a nice piece. I took $12.25 for it. I had marked it down. I had it for a while. I sold 3 or 4 of these, at the full price. I think the originally was $17.50, and I sold 3 or 4 of them. And again, I said I spent 50 cents on each of them, and I bought like 6 or 7 at a sale. So I don't mind if they sit again. I already had my money all back, and I already made a real good profit. I think I only have one more left out of all of those, and if they sit for another 3 or 4 months, who cares? It's nothing coming into it, really. You're talking 30, 40 cents to list, a few cents in fees, and then they pay for shipping, so I don't have to worry about shipping. Again, let's go to the next one. This one I took $25 for. Again, this is about research. There was nothing on this when I listed it originally. The gentleman made me an offer, and he told me, hey, the price and this and that, the price was down. And I have a site or two I look at for tobacco labels. And sure enough, he was right. There was more sales. When I first put this up, there was no sales to compare it to. But since then, there were some sales in some private sites off of eBay, which I do some with too, and sell some items there, usually higher end tobacco items, or some military items too on some private auctions that we do out away from eBay. But on this one here, I sold it for $25. That's about the going rate. I wasn't upset. I probably only have $1 into it. It's literally a tobacco card. I don't think it's actually a tobacco box, but a label, but a card. So it was an interesting piece. It was made to be in this shape. I don't doubt it at all. But again, $25, $1 investment or so. This is another one of those cheapo finds. This was, oh geez, I had this for maybe 3 or 4 months. I got 20 bucks out of it. Catalina Island, if you're not familiar, look it up. I'm not going to tell you much about it, but I talk about the state that it's from all the time. Everything from there sells. Again, this is something I picked up for pennies, probably at a estate sale or from one of my pickers. Comic books, again, this is from a comic book haul. I took 40 on it. There was no comparables to compare it to of this specific title. It wasn't in the best condition. You can see it pretty clearly, the condition. It's early. It's, what, 1945. But the ones similar to this from the same manufacturer running like 25 or 30 bucks. I figure with the military content on it and decent war look cover. That's showing, I would say, downed airmen during World War II being picked up by U.S. Coast Guard. So it's an interesting subject matter. Even with the hole and the chip at the top, it still took 40 out of it. Only in okay condition. Let's see here. Another comic now. A lot of people miss these newer ones, or they'll look at the price and go 25 cents. That's not too old. This is a large format comic book, so it's thick. It's got a ton of pages compared to a normal one. At this time, comics were still being sold for 12 to 15 cents. So this was actually a special one. And this is actually a first app of Carol Denver's, Captain Marvel. So, you know, this is a good one. I actually took $150 for this within an hour of it going up. I could have probably spent some money and had it graded and, you know, mounted and all, but I just didn't want to mess with it. I just figured, let me blow it out. I don't send too many things off to have them certified. I've got a couple Elvis autographs I know are real, which I might do, but I don't think it was worth me spending us 30, 40 bucks to maybe get 50 bucks. I don't know. Maybe I should have, maybe not, but anyway, I wanted to get a little return back, and we sold like $300 in comics the day I put them up. So again, that goes with every day we list, we literally do at least 100 bucks. Some days $300, $400, $500 extra above and beyond what we would have sold normally without listing new items. So always listing new items is what you need to do to boost your sales. If you're listing a ton of items, a couple hundred a day, you're going to increase your sales, hopefully at least $100 each day you do that. So just that day's sales. I mean, and then it's going to be residuals from there too of the other 100 items or whatever that you listed that day that didn't sell right away. You're going to have more inventory that's going to add to your daily sales total. I mean, you want to shoot for a high daily sales total. I mean, we've had days where we've done, 500 plus from just one of our anchor stores for almost a whole month. Every day, at least $500 from that one anchor store, not counting the other one, not counting Amazon, not counting Discogs, not counting Poshmark, not counting Etsy. Literally just $500 a day, every day of the week from one of our anchor stores. This is fourth quarter, of course, but, that still tells you what goes on. We turn some things. And this was one of them. I took a couple high-dollar comics and we just sold them straight out. Now, for this one, as I said, the 150 I did take to comparables that weren't slabbed, weren't graded. This was pretty well even with what they were going for in condition-wise. This is close to a very fine, I guess, or VF maybe, somewhere in that range. It was in actually pretty decent condition. So, but again, this was higher than a lot of the other ones that were up that were not graded. So we were on the top end of non-graded comics for this issue. Again, 150 bucks. Let's see, next one. Again, I've talked about these postcards. I've sold quite a few. We took $27.50, I think, on this one. You can kind of see it's hand tinted. It's a Ross. And I've talked about Ross before. Ross is the brand. You want to look for Verlag or Verlag. It's Dutch from the Netherlands, 1932. It's an original. I still have maybe 100 more postcards to sell. We've made a ton of money. I might have had another one of these too, if I'm not mistaken, because I know there was like 6 that had dupes. But I never put 2 up at the same time if I have dupes on stuff like this. Put 1 up, let it sell so there's no competition from your own item, and then put the second one up. Because like these items, there'll only be 1 up on eBay for like maybe a month or 2 at a time. Sometimes you might see only 1 of these for an entire year up. That's why like another one, I had a Lon Chaney one that went for 75 bucks. Those kind of postcards do sell for that kind of price as long as you don't put more than 1 or 2 up at a time, because once there's a couple up, you're basically, people are bidding on different ones instead of yours only. So, and the chances of another one of these showing up is pretty slim, at least anytime soon. That particular Lon Chaney one from the other video, I don't think one of those is sold for at least a year and a half or two that I can remember. So, and I do look at stuff like that routinely because I look for these kinds of items and I buy them all the time. Okay, and then here's the next one. This was another one of the roller skating labels. I took $20 on this. I actually been to Alexandria. We lived in that area for a little while during 9/11. Actually, ran a restaurant as a regional in there. Let's see here. Next item. I'm going to show you a few of these. I talk about records a lot, but these I sell quite often. I've got a couple hundred of these right now in stock. Probably half of them are up. On some of these, I've learned from trial and error that there's no sense in listing these in an auction. It's just not worth it. There's not enough people that collect the amber roll cylinder records to warrant a auction because there wouldn't be enough on at any given time to raise the price significantly unless it's something really high end like $1,000 one or a couple $100 one maybe, but you'd want to advertise on some of the collectors sites and say, hey, I got this up. I do that occasionally on some items. I'll track down the record site or a military collector site, and I'm members on most of them just because of this, and I'll post that I'm selling an item there, and that'll usually drum up enough business to sell it at a high end if it's something really rare. But on these, some of these, like this one here, I took straight out $24.50 on a buy it now. We ran, as I said, I ran 100 or so of these all at once, and I didn't do very well on the auction, high price wise. I came out better just listing them at buy it now, and then researching them that way. We came out way ahead. On some of these, I did take some offers, but I've got like maybe 50 cents or so into each one of these. I had to buy them in a huge lot to get that cheap, but it was an auction, live auction, local live auction. I bought them all the ones I saw. As I said, I think there was like 260 or something we had of these at 50 cents a pop. I've way more made our money. We got our money back from the initial auctions that we ran, but it probably in the long run and scheme of things, as I said, I would have just listed them as a buy it now, $24.50 to $57.50 range on any of them. But this one here, $24.50. I'm going to show you a few other ones in a minute here that sold that I took offers on, but they're just literally, it's like a wax round disc cylinder thing. Hoochie Coo, Collins and Harlan. Now, I've had records, as I said, by them and sheet music. It all sells. If you know Collins and Harlan, you literally anything by them, whether it's sheet music, booklets, cylinder records like this, 78s, small 78s like the 7 inches, the 10 inches, even the 12 inches from that same era do sell fairly well for the most part. I've sold many Collins records for, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks. But that's a cylinder. They usually come in a cardboard sleeve that's lined with like a felt on the inside. These are fragile. They have to be shipped carefully so that the cylinder cannot move around in the tube. But that's the key to it. These are circa, say, 1890s to turn of the century. There might be a, let's see here. Oh, I guess this one you can't zoom in on. Let's go to the next one. Maybe I have a better one. Here's one, 1850. I sold it for. It's just a plain Christmas one. It has some information written by hand from 1879. It's an earlier one, so that's why it's sold for 1850. It's early style lithography as well, so probably from a stone one, but interesting one. These I had up for a long time. I probably paid a quarter or something for them at a garage sale a year or two ago. And at this point, I just blew them out. I took $7 on them. Again, I don't have anything into them. At least even with listing them for that length of time, I still made a couple bucks on them. So, but they're nothing fancy. They're really small was the problem with them. They were like a size like 3 or something, probably kids shorts. Had these been adults, I guarantee I would have sold them for probably 20 or 30 bucks right off the bat. But not being kids or not being adult size, I think that's really what hurt it, because an adults are what collects these, not a child. So this is something that all they can really do with it is probably put it in a case or frame it for the wall or something like that. I've talked about these too. I sold 3 or 4 more this week of these, but they're all pretty much the same. They sell with the ads. The ads sometimes sell it, but it went for $11.99. I spent $7 and I bought like 150 of these things at some sale or church sale, I think it was. So I've made a ton of money off these. I sell a few a week, pretty much every week since I got them. And here's some more of the cylinders. There's several different styles. They look a little different where they're rounded on the top. You can see the title on there. This is classical violin. Standards. This is a standard. You'll hear it on record and sheet music, the whole works. The magic flute. This is a little different one. I hadn't seen this one before. Magic flute, though, sells. It's actually people playing bells, literally bells, playing the magic flute, so that's why it sold. I took 15 on this one too. I took 15 a piece on them. These have been up for a while. Not everyone's going to sell. Some of these only go for $3 and $4 a piece. So just because they're Edison, Thomas Edison cylinder records doesn't mean they're going to be worth a ton of money. As you can see, this one $15. I sold them 3 to the same person. I made $45. I wrapped them all together in the same box. He paid shipping. So you know, it's a win-win for me. And again, I got 50 cents into these a piece. I think there's one more. Again, another $15. You just have to have enough up to get these multiple purchases from the same buyer. This is something I would only list a bunch of these all at once together. We've got another 100 or so I'm going to list, and I'll list those all at the very same time and go from there, because that's what you want. You want to have people buying a couple. These are hard enough to sell. Not hard, I should say, but if you get them cheap enough, you're going to hold on to them, but you're going to sell them. Usually whenever I get a lot, like 100 or 2, I'll list at least half of them right off the bat, and then we'll usually sell enough to pay for them right off the bat, usually that day or the next day if we do them as buy it nows. Again, as I said in the past, we had done them as auctions. I wouldn't do that again. Just buy it now. Let's be done with it. Let them offer whatever. The value on these is who knows what. I mean, any of the price guides or anything like that mean nothing. They haven't been made in years. In some cases, they're like a decade or 2 old. And at least from what I see, I mean, I'm not an expert in the field, so maybe there are some new ones, and maybe there are some better sources of pricing them. But the sources I use, like PopPsych and some of the other online ones, Discogs and all, the prices are so sporadic and all over the board on these. So if you throw out a price on something like this, like a $24.50, $27.50, you're going to get some takers at that price no matter what, because there's no real way to judge. And on top of that, these items are very rare, they're very fragile, so there's no telling when one would come up if you're looking to complete a series or a set, or you want a specific cylinder. You got to get it when you see it, otherwise you may never see it again. So on these, you can semi-set your own price on them. Again, I've sold a ton of these still. We've sold at least half of all the ones we had right off the bat within the first, say, 4 or 5 months. So, again, that's Cylinder Records. I've talked about sheet music here. I might even have talked about this one here when I got it in a haul video, but this is a crossword. This is a kind of an interesting topic, 26.25. I had marked them down. I ran a bunch of sales here. Our sales had been horrendous for a few weeks there. The last 2 weeks, and before that we threw some sales out. I just didn't cancel the sales. Maybe I should have, but you know, I'd probably have 50 cents or $1 into this, so I got $27.25 back. It was up for I think 8 or 9 months, so you know, I got like 45 cents in a listing at $1 to buy it, and maybe $1 or 2 in fees, so like $3. So I'm going to make $23 off of this, and that's typical of what I do on some of these sheet musics. And this person bought a couple other ones for me too. Nothing high dollar though, but altogether it saves. I ship them all together, use one plastic bag to seal them up in. It ships all at the same time. You paid already, so I mean it's a quick sale for something like that when you're getting multiples. And collectibles are different than clothing. It's a little harder to sometimes get multiple sales in some areas, not all areas. Some areas, if you have a bunch of rare items from the same area, or same like some of the postcards I've had, all from one city, those always seem to sell right off the bat when they're hard to get. So you want to kind of build up some inventory on some items to make it an area or a niche for you. If it's not a niche and you're just selling a few, you're not going to sell enough quick enough to keep you running on those. So pick some areas. Once you've got enough filled up in that area to have a niche going, then you go and pick another area and do the same thing, and then always look for those 2 items or 3 items or 4 items. We've got niches now, probably, I don't know, 14 different areas that we have niches in that we track down and find those specific kinds of items, and then we always sell them. Those 14, 15 areas keep us running. That's like 85% of our sales are in those areas. So, you know, once you get an area that works, you expand on it and attack it with everything you got, and that's what we do. I work very hard. We do 12-hour days constantly. I don't have to, but I want to make this work in a big way, and I want to be able to help my kids through college. And I've got one going to the university now for chemical engineering, and another one in another year and a half or two. He's going to be heading towards college too. So, and we want to, be able to afford to help them out. So, plus, it's good to have money in the bank. We don't know what's going on with the economy these days. Haven't been a big stock market person. We own a few shares and a few things, but nothing other than that. Some Disney because we worked there and we had free stock. Not free, but we got it at a reduced rate. But anyway, I think I got one more item here, and we will move on. This was another one out of that huge film lot. I saw a couple pieces out of this pretty much every single week. I believe this is a transfer, pack adapter, Graflex. This is an early one, like 30s or 40s, maybe, somewhere in that range, maybe even 50s. It's an adapter, film adapter pack, so you can put a different kind of film in a different kind of camera. Let me go back down so we can... it literally slides in. I didn't know what this was until I saw it. I looked it up, and this was readily available, the information on these. Didn't know what this was, as I said, but we've now made more off the other stuff in this huge lot of camera equipment than we did on the lenses. We thought the lenses were going to be the big money makers. We made a ton of money. We tripled our money from the entire investment off of the lenses, but now we've tripled that from the film, the old film in the sealed packages, and the adapters, and the lens cap covers, and all kinds of things like that. Wood slat cover, paper, just all kinds of stuff out of this lot. Just stuff that I would have never thought would have went for what it would went for. Little knobs, just eyepieces, all kinds of stuff like that. It all sold. But that's about it. We sold a ton more. We just cherry-picked some of the items here just to give you a kind of a little swatch of some of the items we sell. I'm going to try not to show you any books. I know I have some clothing in here, but I'm going to try and sway away from clothing, as I said, showing you. Those are things you can see pretty much anywhere. And I'm going to try to stick to oddball, different items that we run across that you may have no clue what they are or have no clue on what they would sell for. So that is that.
Well, there you go. That's what we sold. Hopefully there's something in there that you learned, or at least something to look for. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button below and subscribe and tell a friend. Have a good day.